last night, that girl was running the wheel and doing various tasks to raise money uh, that were on the wheel. And also, just having conversation with her audience about things like Vincent Price, uh, nostalgia, right? Nostalgia. Isn't that's a whole thing in Mad Men? Anyhow, one of the things about Batgirl is oftentimes she needs to go to the bathroom because she's constantly drinking fluids, right? And I can relate because especially during the summer I have to pound water to stay hydrated, and it goes right through you, right? So she cannot make it through a full episode without having a bathroom break. And she was taking karaoke requests, so I gave her a particularly long one, and I figured that she would use the opportunity to go to the bathroom. But instead, she was like, okay, wait, what is this?
Through. God, I'm scared. I'm scared of this. Ew. Is this it? This is the official video. It has 34 million views.
7 o'clock in the evening, watching something stupid on TV.
I've seen this.
Zoned out on the sofa when my wife comes in the room and sees me.
This.
And she says, "Is this behind the music with Leonard Skinner?" And I say, "I don't know." Say it's getting late. What you wanna do for dinner? She says, "I kinda had a big lunch, so I'm not super hungry." I said, "Well, baby, I'm not starving either, but I could eat." She said, "So what do you have in mind?" I said, "I don't know, what about you?" She says, "I don't care if you're hungry, let's eat." I said, "That's what we're gonna do. But first you gotta tell me what it is you're hungry for." And she says, "Let me think, what's left in our refrigerator?" I said, "Well, there's tuna, I know." She said, "That went bad a week ago." I said, "Is the chili okay?" She said, "You finished that yesterday." I hopped up and said, "I don't know, do you want to get something delivered?" She's like, "Why would I want to eat liver? I don't even like liver." I'm like, "No," I said, "delivered." She's like, "I heard you say liver." I'm like, "I should know what I said." She's like, "Whatever, I just don't want any liver." Well, I was gonna say something, but my cell phone started to ring.
I am now going through 10 minutes of this shit.
It was just cousin Larry calling for the third time today. My wife said, "Let it go to voicemail." I said, "Okay." Where were we? Oh, dinner, right. So what do you want to do?
Your health is your biggest asset. Find covered California plans starting at $0 a month.
What do you want to do? She says, "Why don't you whip up something in the kitchen?" Yeah, I said, "Why don't you?" And then she says, "Baby, can't we just go out to dinner?"
I'm surprised she was able to get that monetized. The Weird Al can be pretty cool. I know when I did Albuquerque, he released the copyright claim on my karaoke version of it. Um, but also, shout out to Keeman Brantley. I know he had a rough weekend, right? Um, this is basically a song about a couple just bickering.
Please. I says no, she says yes. I says no, she says yes. I says no, she says yes. Oh, here's your keys. I step a little bit closer. Say, "Okay, where you wanna go?" She says, "How about the Ivy?" I said, "Yeah, well, I don't know. I don't feel feel like getting all dressed up and eating expensive food. She says Olive Garden, I say, nah, I'm not in the mood. And Burrito King would make me gassy, there's no doubt. She says just forget about it. I said no, I swear I'm gonna take you out. Then I get an idea. I say I know what we'll do. She says what? I say yes. She says what? I say we're going to the drive-thru. So we head out the front door, open the garage door, then I open the car doors, and we get in those car doors. Put my key in the ignition, and then I turn it sideways. Then we fasten our seat belts as we pull out the driveway. Then we drive to the drive-thru, heading off to the drive-thru. We're approaching the drive-thru, getting close to the drive-thru. Almost there at the drive-thru. Now we're here at the drive-thru. Here in line at the drive-thru. Did I mention the drive-thru?
Weird Al is famous for doing parody songs that are based on food.
Do you guys want me to suffer? What's going on right now?
Well, here we are in the drive-thru line. Me and her. Cars in front of us, cars in back of us, all just waiting to order. There's some idiot in a Volvo with his brights on behind me. I lean out the window and scream, hey, what you trying to do, blind me? My wife says maybe we should park. We could just go eat inside. I said I'm wearing bunny slippers, so I ain't leaving this ride. Now a woman on a speaker box is saying, can I take your order, please? I said, yes, indeed, you certainly can. We'd like 2 hamburgers with onions and cheese. Then my wife says, baby, hold on, I've changed my mind. I think I'm gonna have a chicken sandwich instead this time. I said, you always get a cheeseburger.
Yes, this is 10 minutes. Yes, and we're only halfway through. Suffer, Batgirl, that will teach you how to cut songs. God damn it! Fine.
So this is a parody of Trapped in the Closet by R. Kelly. Oh.
Fine. Fuck, man.
She says that's not what I'm hungry for. I put my head in my hands and scream, I don't know who you are anymore. The voice on the speaker says, I don't have all day. I said then take her order, and we'll be on our way. I wanna get a chicken sandwich, and I want a cheeseburger too. She's like, you want onions on that? I'm like, yeah, I already said that I do. Plus we need curly fries, and don't you dare forget it. And 2 medium root beers, no, just one, we'll split it. Then I said, I'm guessing that you're probably not too bright. So read me back my order, let's make sure you got it right. She says, 1, you want a chicken sandwich? 2, you want a cheeseburger? 3, curly fries and a large root beer. Stop, don't go no further. I never ordered a large root beer, I said medium, not large. Then she says, we're having a special, I supersized you at no charge. Oh, oh. And that's all I could say was oh, oh. And she says, now there's something else that I really think you should know. You can have unlimited refills or just a quarter more. I say, great, except we're in the drive-thru, so what would I want that for? And she says, wait a minute. Your voice.
Is this supposed to be like a fucking playoff of Bo Burnham's shit? Or something like that? Because that's the vibe that I'm getting from this. I'm getting a lot of Bo Burnham from this whole thing.
It's hard to believe that in the middle of record inflation, Mint Mobile is actually lowering prices. Every
Thing.
Voice sounds so familiar. Hey, is this Paul? And my wife is all like, no, that ain't Paul. Now tell me, who's this Paul? She says, oh, he's just some guy who goes to school with me. I sat behind him last year and I copied off of him in geometry. I said, I know a guy named Paul. He used to be my plumber. He was prematurely bald and moved to Pittsburgh last summer. He also had bladder problems and a really bad infection on his toe. And she says, Mister, please, you can stop right there. That's way more than I needed to know. And then we both were quiet, and things got real intense. And then she says, nice window, please tell me $5 and
one of her mods is like, "Oh my god, why did you request this song? It's so long." And I said, "Well, I could have requested Albuquerque. That's longer."
I finally understand now. Yes, it's the R. Kelly shit. I forgot about that. Dude, I will say that with the whole piss situation, I'm very glad that I was able to have like a whole album and whole like card line made for me by Duffy during that whole situation. Those cards were amazing. That album was amazing. I should play one of the songs from that album after this. Fucking all right, let me get this back up here. God damn. We're
Yeah, and if I remember correctly, when he was releasing it, it was released in like episodes.
almost through this video. What is that, fucking Led Zeppelin?
Click, turned it off because my wife was getting a headache. So we both just sat there quietly for her sake. Well, then I looked at her, and she looked back at me, and I said, I think you have something in your teeth. She turned away from me, and then turned back and said, did I get it? I said, yeah, well, I mean, most of it, but hey, don't sweat it. Then she said, how about now? I said, yeah, almost. There's still a little bit there, but don't worry. It's probably just a piece of toast. Now we're at the pay window, or whatever you call it. Put my hand in my pocket. I can't believe there's no wallet. Wallet, wallet, wallet. And the lady at the window's like, well, 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 that'll be $5.82. I turn around to my wife and say, how much have you got on you? She just rolls her eyes and says, I'll pay for this, I guess. So she reaches into her purse and busts out the American Express. I hand it to the lady and she says, oh dear, it's gotta be cash only. We don't take credit cards here. I took back the card and said, gee, really? Well, that sucks. And that's when I found out my wife was only carrying $3. I said, I thought you were gonna hit the ATM today. She says, I never got around to it, so where's your wallet anyway? And I said, never mind, just help me to find some change. Now the lady at the window's looking at me kinda strange. And she says, mister, please, we gotta move this line along. I said, now hold your stinking horses, lady, we won't be long. So I looked around inside the glove box and checked the mat beneath my feet. I found a nickel in an ashtray and a couple pennies and a dime in the space between the seats. Before long I had a little pile of coins of every sort. The lady counts it up and says, you're still about $1 short. And now my woman's got this weird look frozen on her face. She screams, you know I wasn't even really hungry in the first place. And so I turned around to the cashier again. I shrugged and said, okay, forget the chicken sandwich then. So I pick up my change, pick up my receipt, and I drive to the pickup window. Man, I just can't wait to eat. And now we see this acne-ridden kid about 16, wearing a dorky name tag that says, hello, my name is Eugene. And he hands me a paper bag. I look him in the eyes, and I say to him, hey, Eugene, could I get some ketchup for my fries? But he looks at me, and I look at him, and he looks at me, and I look at him, and he looks at me, and I look at him, and he says, I'm sorry. What did you want again?
Schlage smart locks are designed to open effortlessly.
One again. I say ketchup, and he says, oh yeah, that's right. I just spaced out there for a second. I'm really kind of burnt tonight. And then he hands me the ketchup, and now we're finally driving away. And the food is driving me mad with and she hands me the burger, and I pick up the burger, and then I unwrap the paper. I bite into those buns, and I just can't believe it. They forgot the onion.
My fucking god. Alright, we got through the whole video, guys. We got through the whole fucking thing. Alright, let me get this.